Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today is a slightly different video because what I'd like to do is actually cover what it's cost to actually build and also just go over some of my general thoughts and what I think went well and perhaps what didn't go so well, and also what I'd do differently. So hopefully if you're planning a similar project, this will help you. Why a plastic shed and why use gravel to form your base? Well, on that last question, from a gravel point of view, I thought I'd do something different. This doesn't really need the sort of base that you're going to need when you're actually doing a patio and putting some real load on it, or even a driveway. And I'd seen a few videos on YouTube, like this one, and I thought, well, why not try it? I think it would be perfectly fine for the use that I'm going to have for it and the amount of weight that I need to put on it and what it needs to support. As for the shed itself, I'm fed up of rotting wood. So I thought, well, why not give a plastic shed a try? And I've actually got some more videos coming up on the channel very shortly with more rotting wood problems, which just reinforces that opinion. And I think the other side of the plastic shed piece is just, that overall maintenance, not just stuff rotting, but also as well, it's just a question of, I'm not going to have to worry about painting it. And that's just got to be a good thing. So how much did all this cost then, and was it expensive? And in answer to the second question, I don't think so. Now, the actual shed itself was the biggest cost, and that cost about £320 to £330 from Amazon in the UK. The base itself, again from Amazon in the UK, and that was approximately £60. And for the actual base, the gravel material itself, to actually level the ground off, that was about £30–35 from my local DIY hardware store. Okay, so that's the cost financially, but what about the cost in time to do all this work? Well, for the clearance it was about 8 hours, including removing all the spoil and cutting up all the wood and getting rid of that. In terms of actually doing the base, I'd say that's sort of a similar amount of hours, about 8 to 10 hours, and I do include in that actually going to get the material and bringing it back, and sometimes we all lose that time because, we're just thinking of the actual job itself. In terms of building the shed, bearing in mind that I did most of it on my own, apart from the roof, that took about 12 hours to complete. Now, if there'd been 2 of us, or even 3 for the whole thing, that would have significantly come down and made it a lot easier. Okay, so that's the cost, but what about the quality? Well, I think overall the quality is very, very good. Things fit together generally very well, although they can be painful to put together, like the roof, but generally it's very good. But there is some flex in all of the materials. Now, it's really going to be expected given that it's basically all plastic, although don't forget there is actually some metal reinforcement in parts of some of the structure, which really does make a difference. And the bigger the panel, the greater the flex, but it doesn't detract from the overall feeling of solidity of the structure. To be fair though, that is actually being helped by everything I've moved into it, but anyway. And talking of solid structures, it was exactly the same with the base. These ProBASE tiles were just so strong and rigid on their own, let alone when you combined them together and clipped them in place. And it wasn't just that, it was the small little feet on them that just gave them the extra stability, which made such a difference. Even when you didn't infill it with gravel, which, as you know, I didn't, or at least not fully. But there must be some downsides. Well, other than the birds using the roof as target practice, fortunately not many. Well, one of them here is the moulding around the window, where I think the manufacturing process just isn't really to fine enough tolerances, because some of the plastic actually remains in place here. So if water was to hit the window and then go down into the frame, it needs somewhere to escape. But I don't think that's a big problem at the moment and is actually good enough. But that's really contrary to how well the drainage has been done for the main roof itself, which actually is working superbly. And I'm not sure if you can quite see it, but the door here doesn't sit perfectly flush. There's still quite a bit of room here. So all I've done is this, just to help that stay secure. And one thing I would recommend with a plastic shed is plenty of racking. because you're much more limited as to where you can hang or even put up shelves than you are in a normal wooden shed. Okay, but what would I do differently? Well, one thing I would definitely do is edge or shutter the gravel first, because it just goes everywhere. And I know that's actually quite obvious, but I didn't actually expect to use as much as I did. And so when I just kept adding to it and adding to it, obviously it just exacerbated the problem. So that is one thing I would definitely do differently. And I mustn't forget those finishing touches, starting with clearing those last parts of the bush that were sitting on the roof. So would I buy again? And absolutely, yes I would. I thought the cost was reasonable, I think the quality is very good overall, and it does the job. We've recently had quite a lot of rain in the UK. It's survived also some fairly high 50-mile-an-hour winds, and still, well, it's firstly still here, but also it's completely dry, and I absolutely love that. Thanks very much for joining me again. I'll be back on the channel soon with some more videos, but in the meantime, please like, subscribe and comment below.